Is it a problem ever if you show up to a party and someone else has a fedora on?
No, just knock them out.
Quick track, and now we're live. I like that.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts
Hurts
my
a little bit, but now we know we're live.
I'm used to it.
Okay, so all right, so let's start with what we're talking about. In my opinion, John Bonham, greatest rock drummer of all time.
Right.
Yeah.
True or false?
True or false, Shane?
No, you got. I mean, it could be true.
Trey.
It could be true in your world, but my inspiration. It's all different, really. But like, Keith Moon was one of my favorite drummers of all time. Like, and the fact that he like pretty much died in a show.
Yeah.
On stage.
It's pretty fucking legendary.
Pretty legendary.
I don't know if that attributes to his drumming though.
No.
Oh, it totally does.
You want? He's all in.
No. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, he was kind of like over the top drummer, like just kind of like his physical, just like a physical comedian, like
Yeah.
He's a
like
physical
John
drummer.
Ritter.
like Jim
He's
Carrey.
the John Ritter of drummers.
Like Jim, yeah. Jim Carrey,
Yeah,
like
Jim
you know,
Carrey.
right, a lot of physical, like
Okay,
very.
but of physical comedy, Jim Carrey being the greatest of all time. Is he?
Well, I mean, Jim Carrey.
Who is greater than Jim Carrey?
Are we talking technical skills?
We're talking like
how are we rating this? Are we talking
no.
technical skills?
Okay,
Or
send us
are
onto
we-
a tangent. But my point that I was going to make was that John Bonham is the Jim Carrey, and Moon is the John Ritter.
I can see that, but like.
But no, but as a drummer, is Moon better than Bonham?
Well, I mean.
That's my question.
One, I've never seen him. Believe it or not, I've never seen him.
Yeah,
and then
it's a little before our time, but let's say just recordings, not live.
Recordings. I would have to go with Bonham.
Yes.
But like live, no doubt. Like all the live footage I've seen of Keith Moon, is he's like the heart of the band. Like.
Yeah.
But and like I've always liked like punk rock drummers and crazy like just. But I mean, Bonham, hands down, like was really good, and like all of this stuff was like.
Well, then you also have to like consider like so the band is Led Zeppelin a bigger band, and does that weigh into the equation?
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, the Who was like insanely big at the time, and like I think they were both like.
But
and
I would say that the Who Who was huge, obviously, still huge, but do they compare to Led Zeppelin?
I think they compare.
But are they?
And then
Not
you got
equally.
like.
Well, it's
We
tough
can
because
compare them.
Okay. Also, I have to say this too. It's tough because Led Zeppelin is kind of the like it's if let's say Bonham and Moon easily are in the top 5. Right. Let's be nice and say even the top 10, okay? But easily those two are in the top 5.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so that's easy to say. But then the rest of Led Zeppelin, like Robert Plant is
Jimmy
clearly
Page.
in the top 10
Of
greatest
rock
rock
singers.
singers
the
of
band
all time.
across and
Yes.
But then we got
Page
Entwistle.
has to be in the top 10.
100%.
And then also.
I mean, going back.
So
Page, and I think this is really important. Think about it, is like, I mean, if they're just doing chops and showing like skills.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean, like some of them would still be in it, some of them wouldn't. It's like the music that they wrote.
Songwriting has to weigh into the equation.
Is the there's so much brilliance in
Exactly.
that, right?
John Paul Jones, let's not forget about John Paul Jones, probably easily top 10 greatest rock bass players of all time.
Well, I also think that Led Zeppelin's music, I mean, I could see as contrived or from the blues. I mean, it's straight from
yeah,
the
straight up.
blues.
Pentatonic.
Yeah.
The guitar playing's all
The
pentatonic
Who,
blues.
The Who's able to do like the whole Tommy soundtrack and like do shit like that, like
Yeah.
more like Queen. Like
right.
I put Queen in the
They're
Who.
multi-genre, right?
Yeah, I put the Who and Queen in the same category, which I mean, I believe they were like levels above. I mean, at the time,
Wait. Levels above what?
I would say Zeppelin is like basically like at the time like a tribute band to all the the bands that came before them like at that time. You know what I mean?
Shane, what does it feel like to be wrong?
Well, I mean, no.
You're now outnumbered now. You just crossed the line right now.
Well,
The tape was coming out.
Yeah,
I was
okay,
like,
okay, cool.
"Boy,
well,
wait a
I mean,
second."
they're.
I get you. I get what you're saying.
There's
though,
a
like-
reason why people are always coming after them for stealing songs and stuff like that. Cause like,
Well, they're playing
Uh-oh.
5 notes.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a
It's
blues. They're
blues.
a blues band. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's like that's I mean
But,
that's
like-
good. That's great at that time to be able to do that. And any
Yeah,
band
but
that can
then
do
that's
that is
like
great.
that's like saying like there's something that is the brilliance behind it, like the simplicity of what they were doing and how well they did it. Like I think that like you could say I'm not gonna pick on the Who in this scenario, but like
Who?
if you could do that, then you would. Like if you could do it, if you could just like rock blues and then be that good at it, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like you would.
But what
like,
about?
But like
yeah,
the like. But anyways,
I mean,
we're
Who's
do-
a little
we're-
bit. If you think about the Who, they're a little bit musicians. Right. I mean,
Well,
the,
yeah, well,
the technicality of what they're doing.
Yeah, you
the
think of like.
crazy stuff that they were
I
doing.
mean, Jimi Hendrix
Definitely.
only, very short amount of time, but like Mitch Mitchell, another drummer that's like technically superior, really good.
Right.
I mean, I would bet if him and John Bonham were in a room, they would know that Mitch Mitchell is probably the better drummer.
Those are fighting words too.
He,
man.
he was a studio drummer, and I mean, and
I don't know.
he was I mean, his chops are amazing. All the shit, and he plays shit that's like crazy and like and kind of like chill stuff.
But still, okay. So technically,
Are you talking about who's
if we're
most
talking about-
popular?
yeah, no,
Oh.
I'm not talking about that at all.
Oh, okay.
Because in that argument, like in the hip hop world, right? Like if that's the like there's always this argument in hip hop, like the greatest rapper of all time is the one who sold the most records.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why like Puffy is in contention.
Yeah.
Puffy is not a good rapper, but he's definitely in contention of being one of the greats of all time, just
Solid,
solely
yeah.
based on how many
Kind
records
of going
he
back
sold.
to commercialization.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
But that's not what we're talking about here. Technically, to me, like Neil Peart is the greatest drummer of all time, but he's
Yeah.
definitely not even in my top 20 favorite drummers.
He's got to be.
Like I don't care that he's
Right, oh,
technically that sound.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about
Right.
favorite drummers.
No, I'm not talking about favorite.
Oh.
I'm saying Neil Peart's got to be in the top 10. Right?
I mean, technically speaking,
Best
I mean,
drummers.
top 10 best drummers.
oh yeah.
Technically, he has
He's
to
got to be in the top.
almost number
yeah,
one, right?
He's got to be in the top
but
five.
but
just
he
based
doesn't
on,
hold. He doesn't hold. He's just not even close to Bonham.
He doesn't have the legendary status of Bonham.
No.
You think
And then
about,
Bonham, you think about Bonham, it's the pocket. Like his pocket is deeper than
How many-
anyone.
I want to say
ever.
one thing. When you think of Led Zeppelin and it starts playing in your brain, you
Yeah.
hear Bonham.
Yes.
When you think of Jimi Hendrix,
You think of Jimi Hendrix playing the guitar.
think of
True.
Jimi Hendrix playing the guitar.
Yes.
It's true. I get
100%.
it. Well,
And
when you,
also
when you,
same thing with the Who.
when you hear Rush,
Like when you think of the Who, I'm thinking of
I
Daltrey.
hear keyboards. That's what I hear in my head.
yeah.
Is
No,
keyboards going
yeah.
nuts.
Right. If you're talking about technical playing ability, though, I mean, I think Bonham's below all those guys.
100%.
Like Neil Peart's superior, Stuart Copeland's superior.
Stuart Copeland and Neil are the.
I mean,
technically.
Mitch Mitchell was. I mean,
Yeah.
I've read a bunch of shit about him. Like people say that he was the greatest drummer of the time. So they're like, Jimi Hendrix is so good. Let's get the top drummer at right now.
No, you had to be.
And so
to play with
that
Jimmy
was the guy.
and everyone. There was no question that Jimmy, like, and then in the guitar world, it's almost easier to say like Jimmy is the greatest of all time. Right?
Well,
does anyone here disagree with that?
I disagree with that.
You disagree with that?
Yeah.
Oh man,
Well,
but I think at the time
well,
it
he
was,
was so
at
short-lived.
that time it
I
was
mean,
understood.
But I think
imagine if he lived to be 50 or
E- e-
60,
even-
how gnarly he
I mean,
would have been.
even another 5 years.
Yeah.
It's hard to judge
Even-
art, right? Like it's hard to judge
No, of
art.
course. This
but
is
like,
all
like
for fun,
He was
but-
painting with different brushes than
Yes,
anybody else.
exactly.
You know, he really was. I mean, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
his music was just.
But
Another level.
as a guitar player, I watch it and just like,
but
and even really
yeah.
beyond
Yeah.
me, people watch it and go, "What the hell?
Yeah.
How did he even?"
When you
do
watch
that?"
what he's doing, you're like, you just have to acknowledge like it's like if you're a surfer and then you watch guys who are surfing like, you know,
Yeah.
like Jaws or something, you just have to acknowledge like,
Yeah.
I'm never gonna surf that wave.
Right.
It's just not gonna happen in my lifetime.
Right.
Watching Jimmy play is like, I don't care how good you are, just like I'm never gonna be there. I'm never gonna get there. It's never
Yeah.
gonna happen in my life.
Well, and I think we all love watching those guys. Like, well, watching Bonham is like watching somebody to do what they were completely meant to do.
Yeah.
Like, no doubt.
For sure.
Like, no doubt.
Legend.
Like, I can't see
Like
Bonham
legend in the
as
truest
like
sense.
a valet guy
Yeah.
or working at a restaurant. I was just like,
Could you imagine?
I mean,
No, it's interesting.
I
I wish.
I mean, it's like that dude is like, yeah. I mean, that's all he did, and that's
Yeah.
all he should have done. And
I
he
wish
was- he
I
was
wish we
mad
could
for
like
it.
play like, you know, I've spent a lot of time like on YouTube watching or, you know, just listening to isolated drum tracks of his, and then listening to in the song. It's interesting because the things that like when you're listening to Led Zeppelin songs that he does are they're so simple, like the little thing that's like and you're just like how did he do that? You know what I mean? But it's never anything. It's not like Pearl. It's like gong 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 gong. It's never that like is
Which
like
is acrobats.
It's this little
I
thing.
I always think it's like acrobats.
Exactly.
Right, but then there's people that have like this touch,
this
like
little
feel
tiny
that
thing
changes
that's just like
everything.
oh my god, and then like they'll just like ramble on like when he's like, you know, he's playing when he's playing with his hands on a thing or whatever, like it's so simple but it's genius, like, and what it does for that song is genius. There's no other way to explain it. That's what blows me away about him. Yeah.
I would like to know more about the producers of those records too.
Yeah.
Like,
That's the Johns brothers.
dude.
Yeah,
I mean,
Andy Johns.
Yeah, those
Glenn
guys,
Johns.
I mean,
But the thing that's interesting about that is that at the time, those guys were engineers and they were producing those records. But the reality is that later on, Jimmy Page, they realized like, oh, he was producing those records.
Right.
yeah.
They didn't know because he was just in the band. He
Right.
didn't even know, and he had skill. But then later on, they actually went back when they realized, like, when he learned, he's like, wait, I was the producer on these records. He was producing those
was
records.
doing-
Yeah, and he is clearly a genius.
Oh,
Like,
I mean,
not just on the guitars, like
I mean,
high level.
you guys tell me, what do you think is the role of the producer?
the role of the producer is the
And what
best.
have you
The best
seen?
explained is if you think about who is the director in a film.
Mhm.
There's producers in a film, so it's a different term, right? It's
Yeah,
the
but
same
the
word, but
actors typically don't have much say. Right?
exactly.
But
If you're a good actor,
Okay.
right? If you're a good actor, you will trust the director, and if you're working with a good director and you follow the direction, then you will put out a good performance.
But back
That's
up a
the
little
hardest
bit.
part.
They're like, there's also really good actors that are going to influence the director. To
For
help,
sure.
Right.
Oh,
so
for
I would
sure.
say that
Well,
But you have
band
to,
members would probably play that same role.
for sure.
Right?
Yeah, there's some guys that are so good that whatever they might transcend all. Like we're going back to film. Like let's say De Niro, but De Niro, have to know that he studies the character, he understands who the character is, he becomes the character, but then he puts all faith into the director.
right. And I think the
Right.
producer, right, has to pull.
Producer has to be the same thing.
The producer has to, a really great producer, I believe, kind of like a head coach in football, uses his best talent and pulls performances out of people.
Yes.
It's just like, they're like, I know who I'm working with, right? I got my, I got my Bonham, I got my
Right.
plant. I'm like, he's got to know how to pull still. Still, these guys are like the best in what they do.
Right.
And he's got to pull.
I think that's the role
performances.
of a coach. I think how
Right.
I always explain my role
Producer's the
in
coach.
coaching.
Yep.
My job is to make them better than they could be without me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Pull-
And so really
yeah.
pull that performance out.
Just
of them.
get
Pull that.
like, come on, yeah. And there's your influence right there. There's your like, I know this guy has this style, and I want more of it, or I want less of it on this song.
Right.
I'm like the hands, like
Yeah.
I don't want classic Bonham
Yeah.
on this one. I want something that's like more like, I mean, can you do something with brushes? And Bonham's probably like, fuck brushes. I don't do brushes.
Right.
And he's like, well, can you play with your hands? Fuck yeah, I can do
Yeah.
that. That sounds cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe that's how that started, dude. I mean, it's like, I could see Bonham definitely not being a brush guy.
Which is interesting because in my career in the music industry, I spent a lot of my time producing records as well. And one of my early experiences with Shane was he was in a band called the Hanks. And like that was when we met,
yeah.
right?
Hell yeah, yeah.
We met and we produced, Jeff and I produced a Hanks record. And that's when we met Shane. He was the drummer, and at that point I had been, like when we signed with Atlantic, we had like, Atlantic money.
Right.
So when we were doing a drum session, we were getting like the best session drummers in the business. We had the best everything, producers, engineers, anything. When we went in to do our first record, we went to New York, and they had like, we were renting like $100,000 worth of guitars just every day. Like that was just on the budget. And I literally walked in, and there was a gold Manley microphone that was supposed to be my vocal mic, and it was like, we were probably, I don't know.
You're like,
probably-
yeah, I'll take two
and
of those.
And I was like, yeah. And we were like renting that, and I don't think I ever even used that mic. I ended up using like a 58, like $100
Right.
Shure mic. Yeah. Anyways, when we did that Hanks record, and we worked with Shane, he was hands down like, I was like and when I learned how to produce on Pro Tools,
Right.
and so your Pro Tools is basically a grid, and you see everything on the grid, and drummers are, you're literally, you're like, it's everything is like comes up as like a pop, like
Yep.
the waveform or whatever. So like they're on the grid, like this dude's on the fucking grid. Like I was just blown away, like how tight he was to the grid, but in the pocket. And this band, and then Josh was the singer and guitar player in this band. Super brilliant kid, like high level genius.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and then it was kind of like we were always like, dude, if this band ever doesn't work out for you, we would
Yeah.
love to play with you. And then actually, I did. I got hired to do a record for a Japanese band, and then started bringing Shane in and do session work. Remember that record?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Chakamatch.
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 Yeah, they're huge in Japan. They came to the States. We did the record. Shane did the drums.
So Shane, OPM, what's your favorite album?
Oh, California Poppy. I was like, yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It's just, it has like a more. I guess I love Johnny's style. Like I mean, it has that, the songwriting in that it's just like, it's L.A. Like
Yeah.
it's fucking L.A. dude. Like it's like.
Right. Is
if
it NorCal or SoCal?
No, 100% SoCal.
It's SoCal. Like if somebody would be like, "Hey, what's California like?" I'd be like, "Dude, just listen to this record while you're like going through the roads and stuff." Like,
Do you know and it's funny talking about drummers, like Shane didn't play drums on that record. If Shane had played drums on that record, that would be like an amazing fucking record.
dude, the record's good anyway, but it's
But
like
it was the worst drummer
I
I don't
do
even care if he sees this. I love the guy, love him as a human, but such a horrible drummer. And
So you like playing those songs?
Well, I feel like we were. Oh yeah. Well, I feel like we were meant.
we were playing him in rehearsal, I was like, oh my god,
Yeah.
it's like how smooth everything was. Like because I had this drummer was so bad, I had to chop every
Right,
note, like talking about the grid.
Right.
So just it was such. Basically, the drummer basically went in and hit all the stuff for me, and then I cut
Moved it
and
around.
played it on the Pro Tools.
Right.
Which is not. There's no life. There's
I
no
think,
soul there.
Right. Right.
And him, like, and we're just the way he plays those songs. Like, oh my, these songs are amazing.
You guys gonna play
Well-
any of those songs tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which song are you gonna play?
We play "Rock Me Slow." Somewhere further than the valley.
When he said that somewhere we're gonna play that, I was like, "Fuck yeah!" That's
Yeah,
one
we've
of my
never played that song
that's
ever.
it.
This will be the first time
Oh,
playing it
wow,
ever.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it off that record, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think one great thing is when I started playing with these guys, I think one of my biggest philosophies is which it came down from other musicians before me, was about listening, which is like a very nobody talks about that. It's not cool. So when you're playing live, like I never forget Geoff when I'll be like, one of the first time we played, I was like, dude, what was that effect you used in that pre-chorus? And he was like he
He's
stopped,
like, "You noticed
stopped
that?"
in his track to be like, you noticed something that I played?
Yeah.
And he was like, no. He said no other drummer or had ever asked him anything about his sound or. I'm just like, oh, really? I mean, that fucking sucks.
Is that more common in drums, that they're like just keeping
yeah.
things on the tracks and everybody else is
I think
aligning to the drummer?
You were kind of saying, right? Like drummers just kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't
Right.
fuck up. Don't fuck up. You know, like, and I'm more like, fuck. I you know, like when I don't have Johnny even as a vocalist in my monitor, it's a crap show. It sucks because I get so much energy like from his vocals.
Right.
And when we do our things and we got to cut things, we do like, you know, I mean, it lifts me up when I hear Jonathan do a fucking, you know, his riffs. And it's
Right.
like, it's not like me in my world just, you know, that's sad to me. If
Right.
drummers are out there just like, and I know they're out there, because I'll be like, you know, I can see them. You can tell when they're not really like engaging with the band. And you go back to,
It's a different energy.
You
right?
go back
like,
to-
it's like
yeah.
you're putting energy into what you're playing, and if you're
Right.
absorbing that,
and
like,
and that's why I go back to like Keith Moon and John Bonham. Like live, you see like when you see like live videos, they're like looking out and they're like looking the bass player and the drummer, and they're just like waiting for cues, waiting for vocals, something to happen, and it's just like you can tell that they're not inside, they're out here,
right.
like waiting for like seeing what everybody's doing, and that's like living to me. Like, well, why do we do this?
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because it just like I'm with these guys because like every one of them feels you know.
Is there a certain song that you feel that more in?
Dude,
Well, I mean, like
we
like
do
like
a Fugazi cover
oh yeah.
that like every time we do it, it's like
Oh man,
it's we transcend somewhere into something. You
it
know?
really like. It was the first time I was like, oh dude, like this is like my punk rock past. Like, I was
Right.
a punk rock drummer, and meeting with hip hop. It's like, dude, hands down one of the favorite. I get lost in that song sometimes,
Yeah.
just because I'm like, I get too into whatever everything's going on, and just like, oh god, it's incredibly fun to play.
Yeah.
but, like,
Hey, real quick, let's one more thing, and then we should probably wrap this.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this beer that we're drinking right now. Do you guys want to? Did you guys taste this
Yeah,
yet?
I taste it. It's good.
I already tasted it.
Cool.
When
Cheers.
anybody puts something in front of me, I just taste it.
Yeah.
What is it?
This is the Bags beer. This is Bags. He's
I heard he died 2 days ago.
he
But
did
he's
die
back.
2 days ago, but he is back from
He's
the
back.
dead. Yeah. He
Dude, what's
he
he
works
seen?
for
We-
their.
Somebody's got to
Dyslexia.
interview that guy.
We need to get him down here.
Yeah.
He's a really cool guy. This brewery is amazing. Theirs Not Exist. They do great stuff. They're
Are
really
they here?
They're in Slow, I believe. Yeah, we did a collab with them, and we've hung out with this guy Bags a lot. He got really sick and is in the hospital, but I think he's on the mend. I think he's gonna be okay. I think he needs to get a liver transplant potentially, but yeah, this is the beer they did for him because he's a big part of their success.
Like a liver, do you have to have a certain kind of liver? Or just
I don't
any
know. I
liver?
know nothing about any of that.
I mean, like, it's not like a blood transplant where you
No,
have to have the
it
exact
sounds
match.
complicated.
I think it's a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, I don't know how. Like,
Jeff, can we have your liver?
you would
I'll
have
look
to be
into
a
it.
match.
We'll have to
And
look
then
into
also,
it.
while we're here,
I
we might as well talk
I
about
don't think
this
you
too.
can give a liver, right? I mean, unless you're.
This is our
I don't
this
think
is our
so.
good
I
friend.
mean,
You can give a kidney.
Yeah, because you got.
Let's
two.
talk about this. What organs can you give and still stay alive?
Well,
Can
liver.
you get? I've
think
heard
you-
liver's the one where like you can give like a little piece.
Oh, you can give
and
a
it,
piece?
and it keeps kind of growing.
It
right?
regenerates, right?
It
So you can get a little.
regenerates.
But you can give
I
a
might
kidney
be totally wrong about
I think
that.
the kidney you
I
can
might
give
have
a
saw
kidney.
that on a Star Trek episode, but
in the holodeck. They
Yeah.
did that
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
seamlessly. So what's the?
I guess we're not drinking this at the moment. But I was just going to give shout out to Chris Dunbar Brewing, who did this. I can't. This was my birthday gift.
Rod and hammers.
He did this amazing whiskey with
Slow
Slow,
Stove.
also in San Luis Obispo. So we're gonna try that
Nice.
later after we sing. Hopefully tonight. This will be our nightcap.
Little Rod and Hammers. It's kind
Rod
of
and Hammers, yeah.
a good construction tribute band. Like a fishing and construction
Yeah.
in
band.
one.
Yeah, Rod and Hammers.
So far, yes.
No, but
But-
someone sets
Wait,
it up
wait,
and someone
yes.
knocks it home.
You're the
I
straight man.
I can
Yeah.
toss him
You're the
some
straight man.
fucking
Uh-huh.
softballs and let him smash them out.
Or vice versa.
But usually the straight man doesn't realize he's doing that. So
Well, no, but the good thing
Right.
is about our comedy is that it's dark. Like our comedy does better in Britain than it does in America.
This is true.
This is true. Like we kill it in Britain, and
so
in
like
America,
when you're on,
people.
like you're back it up. So like when you're on the stage and you're
Yes.
like
yes,
saying things,
Yes.
Britain loved you.
yes.
It's literally
We're-
a comedy routine on stage
yes.
there.
We're over there. We're a comedy act, and here we're
Here-
trying to play music, and
Yeah.
we're not that good at it.
It's kind of
So that's why we do bit.
kind of
we're
a
bit-
novelty act,
Exactly.
I guess, and then it's a comedy act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Let's go
it's-
back to ageism.
Okay, so
you wanted to
ageism.
talk about
I
this.
want to talk about
and
ageism.
and why we're talking about this for Jeff is because you're really feeling it right
Yeah,
now.
I'm feeling it now that I'm old. I'm an old person. And obviously like as a young person, you don't get it, right? But
So like Jeff and I just don't really.
yeah, you guys aren't getting where I'm at,
Right.
and I want you to try and follow me down this path. But
We're listening.
So this is going to be a stretch of your imagination.
yes. But what is important is that this current time more so than any other time in history, and I know more about history than you guys.
Yeah, you have more
I
experience.
have more experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, is that the young follow the young more than any other time in history. Like the young people, like younger people are, and it kind of always been this way. Like we've been in the music industry for over 20 years, so we know that, I'd say.
Yeah.
But like right now, like you know, you look at like the impact of say like the Kardashian family. Like young people look up to these people as like they're setting some sort of precedent as what's happening in society, which is totally insane because they're so misled by those people, whatever. And the concept of like following, like the concept of following older, wiser people, that I think people don't understand the difference between knowledge and wisdom is what I'm talking about. And this we need to talk about, like, I am at a higher level, not a higher age. I have acquired more wisdom being knowledge plus experience.
Yep.
Right?
So would you say it's a technology problem? Because like
It's a big part of the problem.
social
absolutely.
media,
Yes.
you can watch who you want. The younger kids have control of it.
Yes, they're running it. Those people don't want to watch us having a conversation, but somehow we need to shift. There needs to be some sort of a shift that, like, maybe they don't need my opinion on what, like, good rap is right now, because all rap right now to me is complete garbage. Because I grew up in the era of like legit hip hop and rap, and so I understand what good rap is. Because there was bad rap then too, but we got to see it through. But now it's all garbage to me. So, I'm not the person they need to listen to about that. But
Geoff, what do you think about ageism?
Yes,
here?
thank you.
Well, it's an interesting thing because the thing about it is that I think it works both ways. You know, like young people think old people are pretty much worthless because it's outdated. Everything they know is from a different time.
It's an old app.
Yeah, and there's a certain amount of truth in that, a little bit, but and old people think that young people don't know anything.
Yeah.
Because they haven't lived enough yet, But intelligence, like you say, wisdom and knowledge are different things. Intelligence and knowledge are not just different things; they're basically unrelated.
Correct.
Because knowledge almost works against. It's almost the enemy of intelligence, because actual intelligence doesn't settle on anything. It's always looking, and knowledge is like, oh, I know this now. So you don't still consider anything anymore. So it kind of creates a little bit of a disconnect there, where there's a point where you can gain experience, which can equal accumulating knowledge, and it not lead to wisdom also. So there's a lot of examples of people that know a lot of things, or think they know a lot of things. Those people aren't worth listening to at all. Wisdom is a whole different,
Where's the line between knowledge and wisdom?
Well, experience is
Wisdom
what brings
is knowledge plus experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's making it practical. It's being able to use the knowledge to, for betterment of whatever, Because if the knowledge doesn't help you do something or understand something in a more complete way, then it's not even helpful.
Exactly. So that's also part of wisdom too, is that knowing through experience what is worth something, what is worthless.
Yeah.
But these are the kinds of things that need to be talked about, where young people, this is what we as people who have more experience, equating into wisdom, these are the things that are important that young people listen to. My opinion on hip hop means nothing to them, and it shouldn't mean anything to them. Yeah. Like, that's the point. But the things where, like, understanding what bits of information, like the sort of basic tools in life that are going to help you become a better human, or succeed, or like at this point everything, like you don't have the opportunity to go out and create your own food or whatever. You have to buy it, so you need to know how to,
Let's back it up a little bit though.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can be possibly more creative or take directions you not normally take because you lack the knowledge, you lack the wisdom. Like, you may now say that all hip hop and rap of today is garbage, but like if there was a old guy like 49 years old like you, when you were in your early 20s,
19,
writing music,
yes,
you might have taken a different direction that may not have been as good as what you guys did.
Absolutely, 100% agree. Yeah. But somehow, had I been in a spot where I could have, what I know now, if I could have imparted any of that information onto me when I was 25 years old and we were writing songs, and I was trying to figure out how to sing and how to rap and how to make music and produce all those things, like, if I could give any of that to me then, we could have been 1,000 times what we were. Like, but we didn't really have like any sort of, I don't know, like father figure in our lives, right? Like, we had like our record label, who was like, they just wanted a product that was the most commercially viable product, and they kept telling us this is what we want, but they didn't tell us how to get there. There was nobody really giving us that.
Did they give you a producer?
They gave us producers, but I don't know.
Or are they just not the right people?
They probably weren't the right people. Like, we worked with Michael Patterson. We ended up, like, they initially sent us out, and we worked with Josh Deutsch in New York, which was just a bad move. Like we're Southern California kids, him and I. We grew up here. We were trying to do like, hey, look, there's this skateboard culture that's bubbling right now, and it's going to be a big thing. And we got this song about skateboarding, whatever. And then like, oh, but this guy's my friend in New York, and we're a big record company. Come work with this guy in New York. We're like, we got to New York. We're like, what the fuck is this place? We've never been to New York, you know? And like they put us up in like, you know, a penthouse suite on 86th and whatever, in, you know, on the Upper East Side, and like it was rad, but like it wasn't the environment where him and I should have been writing songs.
Yeah.
Geoff,
you know?
what would you?
It was
What would you have wanted different out of that?
the one thing that I thought was really interesting was, you know, we've been playing music for a while, and I had this idea that once you get, you know, sign a deal with a major record label, you know, they're experts and they're, you know, like these are professionals in the field and whatever, and
They're going to equip you with everything you need
yeah,
to be successful,
Yeah.
right?
and what I was really surprised about was we didn't want to do a record, entire record with one producer when we started. We want to like feel people out and like, let's do a couple songs with this guy, a couple songs with that
Right.
guy, and you know, we'll see what happens, because we wanted to do a lot of different types of things and whatever. So we were working with a bunch of different producers, and over again I was like, these are guys, you know, some of them had really impressive resumes with what they'd worked on and everything, and over again we were like, this doesn't really, like we just don't really click with them. It was really hard to find someone that felt like they really had a good handle on what we were trying to do.
Right.
And I mean, out of all of the producers that we worked with, I mean, this is like a dozen different people. I felt like there was like 2 guys out of like a dozen. I mean, we're talking like not even 20% success rate
Right.
with being like, no, these guys actually are helping guide us, you know, through the process in a way that like is them helping us do what we do.
Right.
And really, it wasn't until Michael Beinhorn really explained it in that way of saying, like, and he had a reputation for being a difficult person to work with, and we worked with him really well. And I asked him one day if he had a near-death experience, or if his dad died recently or something, or like what it was. He looked at me like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, your reputation is like your bands break up when they do records with you, and you know,
Right.
guys get fired and whatever." And I'm like, we're like having a great time. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah. Is there something wrong?
Yeah, like
with
did something
you or
change?
us?
Yeah, did something change in your life? Because the version of you I'm seeing right now is like really cool. And he said, no, it's just my job is they're paying me to get the best record out of the artist that is possible to get right now. And he said some people, they take everything personal and they do a take, and then, you know, if I tell them afterwards, I think you could do better, they get all their feelings hurt and they go cry in a corner, and it's, you know, a terrible thing. But that was his basic approach, was it's my job to get the best, to make the best record with this band that this band is capable of making today. And I was like, why doesn't everyone look at it that way?
Yeah.
Like it's like a relationship. It's like it needs to be treated like a garden. You know,
They're
like
more of a coach.
yeah, you water the plants, you know, you just so that they grow on their own. You know, you just pull a few weeds and water them a little bit, and then what's there grows into its best self.
And if you
you
look at
guys mentioned that I listening to your albums, like there's a lot of variety in there, but it all kind of like comes together really cleanly. But it's kind of like listening to a party, or like a party soundtrack, right? Like, were you guys like trying to experiment with like what works, or were you guys like, I just want one of these songs and now one of these songs, or like
We talked about it before that like we wanted it to be the soundtrack that you could put on at a barbecue, like
a backyard SoCal barbecue
yeah.
party, you know. Yeah.
Instead of like you put on, you know, Deftones are cool and everything, but you put on a Deftones record and it's like, okay, we're just listening to Deftones for the next 40
songs
minutes.
that are basically the same.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You're like, that's not the way it is if you go to a club or you're, you know, there's music playing at the party or whatever. It's like it's this song, it's that song. You're hearing different stuff all the time. So that kind of variety.
I think it works too, like in your shows when you're there. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like you have like, it's kind of like different movements. You know, like
I hope so, because it's all we have to play.
No, we we were kind of trying to tap into the skateboard culture of
Right.
when we were really young, and like, we thought about like when you go hang out with your friends and go skate somewhere. Sometimes you would listen to Iron Maiden, and sometimes you would listen to LL Cool J.
Right.
Sometimes you would listen to, like it was never just like, one genre. That culture was so cool, and that like it embraced so many different genres. It embraced, there were also other cultures, subcultures inside that culture. There was graffiti culture, breakdancing culture, all these other, like, b-boys were like also in that culture. So.
Growing up in the Midwest and skateboarding, maybe a little bit different, like you dream of like SoCal and like all that. But it was for us, and it was kind of interesting because we talked about it a lot on this show with collaboration. But to me, what I loved about skateboarding is that everybody I skated with, we were all trying to help each other.
Yeah.
Like someone would do a trick
That's
and be
right.
like, dude, how'd you do that? Like,
Yeah.
show me how to do that. Or if I did something, I'd show them how to do it. And then when you saw them do it, what you were doing, you were like all excited for them. And it was like, it wasn't competitive.
Yeah.
There were levels of competitive.
Yeah.
If you went and competed, but like I really liked that about it, and it always felt very similar to jiu-jitsu. Like we're always teaching each other stuff.
Yes.
But in music, I mean, that's one of the biggest collaborations. Like,
No, and also if you listen to our first record, that was also part of it. There's like almost every song on there had a collaborator. Like we have Ozo Motley on there. We have Angelo from Fishbone.
Eric Avery.
Eric Avery from
Came down.
Jane's Addiction.
on the first album.
On the first album.
And that, I mean, now that's like really, like I think because music's a little bit different, like you see that more now. But I mean, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah. But
Probably
also
wasn't
at the
as
same
common,
time,
right?
it's like you said, it was like this was our first like real anything in our lives,
Right.
And so we were tapping into like Eric Avery's, for example. Like we all grew up loving Jane's Addiction, right? Now all of a sudden we have Atlantic Paycheck or Checkbook,
Right.
right? And we're like, we wanted to sample the bass line from
Coming down the mountain.
summertime, coming down the mountain, and then we're like, let's look into it. And they're like, hey, like, what if we got Eric Avery, who wrote that bass line, right, to come in, and they were going to pay for it? And like, yeah, so they paid, and he came in and whatever.
Did he come in and like play
He
it?
came in and like
Or did you
played and
sample
like he just came in and like we sample the actual things on the record is sample,
Okay.
but he like came in and like did some guitar stuff with Jeff, and like
That's sped up, right?
it's super sped up.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's faster. yeah.
So I tried to play it at the temple that you guys have it, and I was like, I
It's
don't
Wait a
really,
minute.
really hard to play that live. Yeah.
I felt kind of embarrassed. I was
Yeah.
like, wait a second, I should be able to do this, right?
But it was like, hey, let's get this guy come in, and he taught us stuff. You know what I mean? Like he came in and like worked, with Jeff, and we learned from him. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And then like those Motley guys came in and like,
you guys were getting these master classes after master classes
exactly.
from these
It
people.
was and then
Fishbone,
Fishbone.
Ozo Motley, and Jane's Addiction.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, already that's like
Yeah.
winning.
And also on Trucha too, Jack came in. Jack came in and helped me write my verse on that song from Psycho
Right.
Realm. And like, that was like
I mean, so you guys were getting a lot of help,
a lot of help. Yeah.
but maybe just that overall producer type element wasn't always there.
We were it was kind of like we talked about with the Jimmy Page thing. We're talking about Led Zeppelin, and we're like, we were basasically producing the record.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
We approached it as at least like co-producers, like from the beginning, like for sure.
And the funny thing is that when we were in New York, we were doing the record there, and then we did a break for Christmas. And right before we went to break, the record label was like, hey, we've got Heaven is Half Pipe in the can. Let's just mix it, and then we'll take a break, and you guys come back and finish the record.
Right.
And so so they hire Michael Patterson, who was basically Puffy's engineer. He was working at Daddy's house, which is right down the street from where we were. Like, let's get Patterson to mix it. He's mixing, he just finished mixing like J-Lo's record and won a Grammy for mixing a Beck record, and like, he's the man,
Right.
And he's Puffy's guy. So we go down there, we go into the studio, we're sitting in the chair that Biggie Smalls sat in, when he was smoking blunts and writing those records, and Michael's the guy that recorded all these records or whatever. And he mixes Heaven there, and then he says, he lives in LA. It's like, hey, we're going home for LA. He's like, I'm going home for LA too. I'm like, hey, let's link up back in LA. We have a studio in LA, come by. He ended up kind of basically taking over and then finished producing the whole rest of the record for us.
Wow.
So, which was amazing, and he's a lifelong friend. He might show up tonight. I invited him.
That'd be great.
He's an amazing guy.
He's great.
But he was. If you're a producer in the music industry, and you want to get paid, you become a mixer. Like he was a mixer. Like mixers, they get paid one song a day, and they make bank. Like so, his manager is pushing him mix, and he goes, I want to go hang out with these assholes in LA for God knows how long and produce a record. And he's like, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah. He's giving up money.
He's giving up money.
Yeah.
You know, but that was his passion, and he just got in the mix with whatever. But like, you know, he was also a young guy, and you know, whatever. So that like he also I think was looking for that guidance, you know, that wise person to come in. You know what I mean? I think in a lot of cases for bands, that's their manager.
Right.
Our manager was not that. You know, she was like kind of we got her kind of out of necessity or whatever, but I mean like literally zero guidance. She just kind of.
She did get us our first record deal like offer in like a week.
That's helpful.
From a demo tape that we had, like a literal cassette tape that we had.
It wasn't on a CD, it was a cassette tape?
We had a
yeah,
cassette.
but I mean, we did some work before she came in. We were
no,
like,
yeah, we said
we were on
a lot
the
of
fast
stuff.
track. But
Yeah.
we basically, we had a point where like we knew we were about to get a deal, so we had to give somebody's phone number,
Right.
rather than one of us, and
Right.
so and we like hurried up and hired her. But
Got it.
yeah, she
if
doesn't get that credit.
No,
as
with,
far as
I'm just saying,
concerned.
if it
I
had,
love her to death.
if it
but
hadn't been her, it could have taken 2 weeks.
that's right. Agreed.
Because the offer was from her, her
Yeah,
contact.
that's
The
right.
first offer was.
But if we would have had like, I don't know who, but there's some like legit, you know, like Andy Gould, let's say.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, we're like if we'd had Andy Gould, it would have been a different world for us. You know.
No, everyone that heard that demo tape was like, oh, yeah, okay, your guys will have a record deal any day now.
Exactly.
It was fire.
Yeah.
It was.
So
6 tracks.
I have a really important question. John and I had this conversation the other day, and I thought we'd just bring it on here. But let's talk about fedoras a little bit.
That's right.
Is it a problem ever if you show up to a party and someone else has a fedora on?
No, just knock them out.
So there's only like one fedora in the room, am I right?
No, I thought you said one fedora in the band.
That too.
Okay.
I mean, you guys went through a phase where
There
might have
was
been
a
more
time
one fedoras.
when more than one of us wore a fedora.
Yeah.
Like you and Matt.
Yeah,
wore
we've
fedoras.
been a 2 fedora band.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm telling you.
Occasionally 3.
Yeah.
You know, there's been times where it's
Yes.
been 3.
That really seems like you guys
No,
went a little over.
They just think
I'm
we're a ska
telling you,
band.
I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to be. I don't know, cocky or whatever. But we got away with some fucking shit. We got away with murder.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like.
Well, not actual. Well,
well, maybe.
maybe.
But like, no,
I'm not
we're
gonna
saying
talk
like
about that part.
those kinds of rules
Didn't apply to you guys?
did not apply to us.
No.
Honestly, I'm not just saying that to be a dick, but like we could. I could go home and get my fedora now. Him, I could rock on that stage tonight, and we're gonna fucking pull it off. We've talked about like the camo rule, right?
The camo
yeah.
roll. There's
Like,
a little. Do you know the camo rule? I don't know if you know the camo rule.
You're not. He's saying you're not. The rule is you're not allowed to wear 2 pieces of camo. How many times have you seen me?
I mean,
How many times have you seen me rock full fucking camo?
Yeah.
And I pull it
Well,
off
head
somehow.
to toe camo might be a little bit.
Well,
different,
actually,
but-
I've never actually seen you
Oh,
when you're
because
wearing
I'm
that much camo.
camouflage, of course.
But
No, without looking like
second best joke ever on the show.
Thanks.
Right there. I like
You're-
all in one little run.
Without disrespecting the military, right? Yeah, and you have to be clever because you have to have multiple versions of camo.
So that's where I think you're wrong. You're
I
not
know you
gonna
think
wear
that.
the desert camo and then the
Oh,
jungle camo.
I'll fucking go there. I'm
You
not
are
scared.
going to. Okay.
But I think it's interesting because our era, right? Like we were in the new metal era. Like when we were like battling to get on radio, we were battling against fucking Papa Roach and
Yep.
Marilyn Manson and Korn and Limp Bizkit. Like that's who we
Right.
were competing with,
Mhm.
and so we were not that, you know. So we got away with like a lot of stuff.
And that was confusing to a lot of people.
It was.
Because they'd see like a group of mostly white guys,
With soul patches.
with like facial hair and tattoos, and they're like, oh yeah, they must be like Limp Bizkit, and they're like,
Right.
And then we
no,
go there and do something else.
no,
Right.
they're playing a reggae song. What is happening? And then we'd go to a reggae concert and we'd play there, and they're like, who the fuck are like? It was actually
These guys are
amazing.
playing punk.
We found a way to not fit in no matter where we went.
That's right. Yeah, which is like amazing that we had as much success as we did, as we were constantly shooting ourselves into the feet.
Mhm.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
So, and it's weird because we thought, like when we would talk about it, we would be like, we're going to be rewarded for being creative.
Yeah.
And then we're like, wow, that's so dumb.
Yeah.
That's not true.
That was the lack of wisdom.
That was the lack of wisdom. That's what I'm saying. If somebody would come in and said to us, you guys have a hit in Heaven is a Half Pipe, write 12 more of that exact same song,
Right.
we would have been like,
Well, I would say the
different level.
flip side of that, though, is that you could go to a reggae concert. You could go to
no, for sure.
a
That
ska,
was, it was amazing
a
for us.
ska
Wouldn't
thing,
trade it
right?
for the
Like,
world.
No,
yeah.
I mean, we literally played reggae fests,
Yeah.
metal festivals, like punk shows, with all these bands. And that's what I'm saying is we could get away with people going like, yeah, put them on that bill, they'll fit in.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then, but it's like we didn't fit in at the metal show equally the same as we didn't fit in at the reggae show. And we're like, wow, it just keeps not working out for us, does it?
Yeah, we played with like Cool in the Gang.
Yeah. Yeah.
We played with,
Cool and Gang, that
Some-
was cool. That was in Switzerland.
yeah. We played with, we played on,
PJ Harvey,
PJ
there.
Harvey, Iggy
Uh-huh.
Pop. We
Yeah.
played, like
Queens of the Stone Age,
we did big shows with Queens of Stone Age in
Yeah.
Germany.
and Limp Bizkit and Kid Rock
Limp
and
Bizkit,
all
Kid
that.
Rock, those were amazing.
And then all the we did those.
We played with the Thong Song guy.
Oh yeah, he opened for us.
The biggest show we ever did, 100,000 people
Yeah.
for a BBC show with the Cisco, the Thong Song.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it somehow it all made sense.
yeah.
So
Lil Bow Wow.
Totally changing gears. What
and
music
Lil Bow Wow.
have you guys always wanted to do, but maybe just didn't get around to doing it?
I would say I think I told Jeff the other day. I was to say we were about to embark on a mission, and I might not even put this in the podcast. 'Cause I don't want to let it out into the ether. But our next record will be a Black Sabbath reggae record.
Yeah,
We were kind of drifting into that world or whatever, but we never got to it.
yeah.
That's very different guitars, Jeff. What do you
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
We're gonna
But-
cut off one of his fingers.
Yeah. The thing that's cool about Black Sabbath, though, that people don't think about when they hear the name Black Sabbath, but they were a good band. They had
Oh,
a
yeah.
real rhythm section, not a technical metal
Right.
rhythm section, but a rhythm section that grooved. They had a
They're
pocket.
riffy,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, the bass and drums are fucking ripping
Phenomenal.
hard.
Right.
And the guitar's big and everything, but especially on the earlier records, it's still a very real raw sound, you
Yeah.
know. So
Going back, it's not overly complex,
That's
Yeah.
right.
right?
Keep it simple, stupid.
But it's in the pocket.
Genius.
yeah,
Those guys were geniuses. There's no way around it. I mean, they invented metal.
I've always
period.
wanted to. I've always thought it'd be cool if we did a remix of one of our albums, do a dub
Yeah.
version.
I'm down for
Do a
that.
record and then do a dub album
Oh,
version.
cool.
I always thought it would be cool. That's I think most of the time, once we decide we want to mess around with some idea of music that we haven't really heard much before, we usually end up messing around with it pretty quickly.
Right.
But we've never got around to doing a proper dub mix of any records yet.
Yeah, it's crazy. We kind of were trying to come up with a formula, and to really dumb it down, it was a hip hop beat,
Mm-hmm.
a reggae bass line,
Mm-hmm.
punk rock guitars,
Mm-hmm. keys doing whatever the hell they need to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And then often trying to be in a major key, but lyrically darkness. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
contradicting
the
each other.
contrast
Right.
between like it sounding like a happy
Right.
Beach Boys song, but with like Marilyn Manson
Yeah.
death lyrics or something. You know?
Well, I
like-
think was for me when I listen to you guys too, like vocally,
Nailed it. Yeah, no, that's all right. Yeah.
vocally, the verses and the choruses are all hooks.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Like I think that's kind of a thing that you guys did really well
Yeah.
on. I mean, like a lot of people just dumb it down on the verses,
Right.
So you
Yeah.
can get all the words in there. They dumb it down, and then they really try to find that hook in the chorus if they can find it. But a
Yeah.
lot of your stuff is like
Yeah.
it's hook.
I mean, that was
hook.
a sort of a product of like the the Beatles, like as like wrote the book of Songwriting 101.
Yeah, melody.
And every single part of a Beatles song is a hook. Every part, every single thing is
Yeah.
a hook. Everything is melodic. Everything, whatever, and that also is a fundamental in our songwriting. Trying to do that, and then also like there was one time, I'm sure you remember this. We were turning in songs to the record label, and Craig Kalman, who is still to this day is the president of Atlantic Records and was when we got signed, was like, if you didn't have a hook in like 12 seconds, he would turn it off and throw out what you sent him.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
He's like, we would send him a CD and be like, no, there wasn't a hook in 12 seconds. And then some of them were like, oh, there was a hook in 12 seconds, but then you lost me and whatever, fuck it. Like, so that was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it was 12 seconds, but it was a very short amount of
Yeah.
time. And so we went on this thing, we're like, fuck, we gotta figure this out. And like every bit had to be hooky. So
Yeah. It's part of their like, they do their test marketing. They
exactly.
play
Right.
that little bit of a song. Like, do you like it or not? Like,
Yeah.
so.
And radio was king at that time. And when you're listening to the radio, you got that knob right in front of you.
Right.
And if a song comes
Cool.
on, you don't like it, they're gonna change to the next station.
Yep.
So radio stations that's what they were looking for.
Yeah.
They were looking for everyone to write Beatles songs.
There's a lot of studies now that prove that that's a really bad way to do market testing. It's
Right.
it's the
Couldn't
same
agree
it's
more.
the same thing with like the Pepsi taste test when they did New Coke,
Yeah.
that like Pepsi wins the taste test every time compared to Coke because it's a little bit sweeter. And so but the taste test is you just have a sip. Right? So if you have a sip, the sweeter thing always wins.
Right.
Oh,
But if you
interesting.
drink the whole drink, it's too
Yeah.
sweet. You don't
Yeah,
want it
tap
anymore.
out on the
Right.
Pepsi, yeah.
So in a sip taste test,
Yeah.
Pepsi will beat Coke every time. But like for someone to actually drink the whole drink, the Pepsi's
Yeah.
a little too much. And so that's why New Coke failed miserably.
I found with me with music is some of my favorite artists were people I didn't like when I first heard them.
Yeah.
Like I had to listen to it over and over again, and then I started like, oh, I like it, and then
Mhm.
I got really, really
Yeah.
deep into them.
You had to live with it.
Right.
You had to drink the whole drink.
You had to
Right.
drink the whole Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
weird
It's
how
like
that
you
works.
don't want change.
Yeah.
And so like by testing that way, it was like, what else could we create that song to get exactly like everything else,
Yep.
right?
Yep. I've always really, that's one of the things that I really enjoy about that you said about the band is the music really trying to make you feel good, and the words being that like, first of all, you can get away with saying some crazy shit like when it sounds like if you say it sweetly,
Right.
So singing it like pretty when it's all fucked up is great, but because then you're sneaking it past everybody,
Yeah.
their defenses are down, and then you actually think about the words later and like, wait a minute.
That's what
That's kind of fucked up. But so making you feel good, but then kind of putting something in there to make you think about it a little bit is
Right.
I don't know. I've always enjoyed that about it.
Yeah.
Was
No,
there an
it-
example in one of your songs where you told me a story a little bit back where someone recorded something, you didn't use it, then later you used it in a different context, the recording of it.
Probably
Yeah,
like
we
Yellow
did that
Man.
all the time. Oh yeah, Yellow Man.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right,
I think that was the example. Yellow
Yeah.
Man. Well, tell me about that.
Yeah, we tried working with Yellow Man on the first record, but the songs that we did with him didn't end up on the record. And so when we started getting ready to do the second record, we were like, dude, I can't believe like we still have these tracks with Yellow Man that like we've never done anything with. So we threw all the music away since we couldn't use it anyways, and from the first record, and wrote a whole new track around. Just use the same key.
Just the parts that he did, we wrote the whole
Yeah,
song.
so we wrote it around his vocal.
And then it's funny because one of those songs ended up on our second record.
Yeah.
And then it was funny because we actually brought him in to be on our first record, the song called Undercover Freak. And it's kind of and it was like when we were doing the song, it was already kind of weird, like because we had two singers, right? So it was like weird doing a song about a girl with like two guys. Like, are we talking about the same girl? Or are we talking about different girls? You know?
Yeah.
So we already had all these challenges, and then we tried to bring in Yellow Man, and it was like, and Yellow Man's like much older than us at that time, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it was like, whoa, that's just fucking creepy. Like, it was like, it got really creepy.
It got weird.
And so we're like, okay, and then we tried another one, and then that second one we did on the second record, and then our third record, we went back again. We're like, let's go back and look at that thing that he did, and then again we wrote another song because we still had the Yellow Man tapes, and these were literally on physical tape back in the day. Like he recorded it in Jamaica and sent it to us, and then we rewrote another song which was Eternity, and it worked, and we made it work on that one too, which is like, so we have two songs with Yellow Man in our career, which is like, that dude's a legend.
We probably have 3 or 4. Because there's a good chance that what we sent him,
that's right,
he released on his own in Jamaica. Yeah, that we just never made it here.
Yeah,
so I have a feeling because,
that's pretty common in Jamaica. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
if
I was him, I would have done it.
Yeah, whatever he did on those tracks, for sure, those got released in Jamaica. If somebody has that on vinyl,
love to hear it.
Let us know.
Please, I would love to hear it.
Yeah.
It sucks because those are like. One of those is my favorite song for the record too. That first Ghost Town.
Yeah. Yep. The first song we did with him was we were trying to do a version of Ghost Town by the Specials, and then we submitted it to the Specials to see if they would approve it because it's like, almost like a sample.
Right.
And he rejected it.
Oh no.
Based on the fact that they were about to release another record that had like an anniversary version or whatever. His timing was wrong. He didn't want us to do it. So then when we did it again, like I said, we redid it, and then obviously the Ghost Town
all that stuff
was just thrown out.
And can we say, with some wisdom, that he made the wrong decision? Because if you're making a record and you're going to re-release that song, the best thing you could do is have other people, ride the wave of that coming out.
Right,
if that had been out,
fed off each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, and the Specials were a huge influence on our music. I mean, they were like the British ska era, whatever, was like key into the evolution of like Sublime, which was a huge influence for us. So.
And just for fedoras too.
Yeah, exactly.
How many?
As many as it takes.
The Specials straight up rock like 5 dudes with fedoras in the band at one time.
I think the whole horn section was wearing it.
Yeah, they probably all wore fedoras and pulled it off.
It's all coming
full
circle.
See?
Full circle. Yeah. Those rules don't apply to us. Fuck those rules.
Rules don't apply to us.
Period.
I mean, try.
Yeah.
Try.